Time to watch the season premiere. And why am I watching it from my bed? I should be in it, and you know damn well I should be in it. So this is a little rough for me. This is just a little bit. I should be there. I shouldn't be telling you how they need to play. I should be showing them how this game is played. You know damn well I would do well, and I wish I were there showing it, so I'm sorry. Am I going to give you everything? I don't know. I'm going to give you a lot, but I don't know if I'm going to give you every single thing I see and every single way in which I'd move. I'm not sure. We'll see. Watching them come in on this boat, how hopeful are they all? You hear them introducing themselves, talking about what they used to do and what they might do. I still, even though they're all winners, I still wonder how many of them are really in the game. And they ought to be in the game solidly before they got on this boat. I'm telling you, I don't know. We'll see. Parvati, that phoenix rising from the ashes, she's something. She's something to be reckoned with. You watch. She can play. There are a few women that can play. Kim's amazing. They're all lined up. They don't know yet that it's 2 million. I think they're going to be shocked. But the game ought to be on. They're paying attention to Jeff, and they should really be focused on each other. Well, here's the thing with Survivor. You fans know the game. Most of you who've been fans for a long, long time probably know it really well. But here are all these winners. And I can tell by looking at them on the beach that they aren't as focused as is necessary. And I want to take 2 seconds to talk about how exhausting it is to be as focused as a good player needs to be for as long as you're playing the game. That's part of what kills people. It's unbelievably difficult to focus that well, that laser focused for as long as you need to. But when you don't, things slip. Tiny little bits of information get missed, and opportunities that don't seem like much but that could change the entire outcome of the game come and go. This whole idea of focus and how exhausting it is going to play out, I'm sure, in a winter season more than it ever has. Yeah, Jeff, give them champagne. That's the first thing I'm going to do, is start drinking champagne so my head's a little cloudy. Not happening. Okay, they're on the beach. They're separated into teams. This is when the wheels are spinning. So you can even look at their faces as they're standing there thinking, okay, what does this mean that I'm now on this team with this person? What do you think Rob is thinking that Amber's on a different team? These people's minds should really be engaged at this point in some really, really incredible gymnastics that have to happen quickly, because they've got to decide what it means to be paired up with the people that they're close to now, and how that's going to play out over however many days, probably for a long time. They don't know when the shifts will change again. Okay, so Jeff's throwing it all at him. He's throwing Edge of Extinction. Now they've got fire tokens. Oh, you're starting out with one. Here, he says, and he's giving them the fire token. Who would you give your fire token to? You better not know yet, because you can't know yet. And anybody that's thinking about what they want to do with the fire tokens this early is, again, missing the boat. What do they mean? How would it benefit you to hold on to them? What are they going to give you or give somebody else later on? There's so many. Do they take them away at some point? Do you need to use them now, or you're not going to get anything out of them? You have such limited information. You should be somewhat stressed about what it is that you need to learn about them so that you can use them most effectively. Interesting twist, fire tokens. Let's see where it leads. Yeah, $2 million he just told them. That's some money, right? So reality folk, we aren't paid like celebrities. People think because we have the kind of notoriety or fame or infamy, whatever you want to call it, that we're in the public eye and that maybe we are paid well. We're very often really, really underpaid. And $2 million is going to go a long way in one of these players' lives. That's a lot of money. Okay, so this first challenge is something, folks. There are many questions you ought to be asking yourself, and that we all, me included, don't have answers to. This first challenge is physically engaging, physically rough. And what are the limits? I wonder what they've been told. What are the rules? Because I'm a big guy and I would sit on somebody, hold them underwater until they let go of that piece of whatever it is that I need to drag. What do you call it? A float? But anyway, I'm watching and I'm looking at Kim having pulled Natalie's hair. And I'm thinking, good move. Nobody told you not to. If that's not against the rules, you got to push it. You got to do what it takes to win. Oh, God. Wow, Ben is beautiful. Challenges like this first one, are awesome for Ben. Ben is so frenetic. He's so wound. He's got so much energy, and he's a physical dude. You can see he's built. The guy must love stuff like this. Must love this action. You know, it keeps him moving. But I don't know if he knows how to slow down. I'll be watching for that. Rob is no spring chicken. Looks like he's having a little trouble getting his breath. This is great. I'm loving the first challenge. Yule is calm. He's given an interview and he's calm. He's direct. He's talking to us. Yule is somebody to watch. Many of these players are people to watch. But Yule is a bright guy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he chooses to do in this episode. So we're learning a little bit about these fire tokens. They got a note, and they're reading off some of the things that they can buy with their fire tokens. And I think that could be a trap. Oh, here, buy some beans, buy some rice, buy a tarp. Yeah, so then you spend your fire token on some extra food, and you lose some kind of huge game benefit later. Perhaps, maybe not. Maybe you don't get anything later. This is one of the good areas where you see these twists come in, and you realize a player has to decide what risks to take with very little information sometimes. Yeah, Rob just said the game is on already. Rob's right. And the game should have been on for quite some time, and maybe it has been. What I'm noticing as they're building shelters and doing the early stuff together is how intense those periods are when they don't look like they're thinking very much. You know they have to be. You know they have to be cautious about what they're saying. You know they have to be thinking about how people are responding to what they're saying. You know they have to be thinking a few steps ahead if they're going to be good at this game, because most of these players will be thinking a few steps ahead. Parvati's smile is wild. She's just smiling ear to ear. And she talked with us. She told us as viewers that, she used to use the flirting, but now she's a mother, etc. She's going to flirt. That girl can't not flirt. She's going to flirt. She's going to use everything she's got. I'm going to be interested in how this unfolds with her. She's a player. My buddy Ethan. How good is it to see Ethan back in the mix? Yeah, there's a survivor. You all know his history and the two battles with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and he's cancer free. He's living it, and what a good human being. But don't count him out. He's also pretty sharp. He plays a little under the radar. He doesn't come off as too bold. He's very cautious about offending anyone. I don't know if that'll bite him at some point, but it's a good skill in this game. And Ethan, obviously, he won Africa. He knows what he's doing, but this is an interesting mix within which he's using that same kind of approach of just, I'm easygoing. I'm everybody's buddy. People like Sandra, for example, who kind of, go off at times and you don't even know where it's coming from. Sometimes, often, just see something and realize, oh, he's too likable. Boom. And then it's a liability, this way that Ethan's playing. So Let's see how that unfolds too. Who loves Tony? Saying, oh, I'm on probation, because he knows he ran around. When he watched this season, he realized how frenetic he was. But it's part of that man. Watch him. He's being as controlled as I think he knows how to be, but he looks like he's ready to pop. He just looks like he's ready to just move at any moment. So inside the wheels are turning just as fast as they always do. Well, check out Tyson. Here he is talking about the way his life has changed as a result of the show. And I believe him. The show's impacted a lot of our lives in many ways. But let's look at Tyson, because I'm interested to see what he'll be able to do in this season. Do you think he could have won without Jervis? Granted, full disclosure, Jervis is a friend. Jervis and I have known each other a long, long time. But I watched that season, and I think the way in which Tyson and Jervis played enabled Tyson to win. And I don't know whether Tyson will be able to duplicate what he had with Jervis in this season to get far enough to be close to the end. We'll see. It's fun for me to figure out each time someone plays again what skills they have, how good really are they at this game. That's what makes this winter season really, really intriguing to me. I'm watching the scene in this first episode where Danny's talking about Rob, but she's standing there with Ethan and Adam and Ben. And does this happen to you? I'm having trouble hearing what anybody's saying because I can't stop thinking about Ben. Man, that man is some good looking.
Rob is phenomenal at what he does. You know what you're gonna tell me? That's like getting off on the wrong foot, Dad. It's not.
Oh my gosh. Here I am drooling over how beautiful Ben is. And now he's there walking with Rob, telling Rob that other people are talking about him. And Rob is playing Ben like a fiddle, brilliantly, like a maestro. That's Rob's skill now. He's played this game so many times, and he's threatening Ben without Ben even knowing it. Oh, you're not going to talk now? That's a hell of a way to get started. That could cause trouble. He's playing Ben like a fiddle. I don't like seeing that. I wanted Ben to be stronger than it looks like he's being right now, because I'd like him to stay around so I can keep looking. Here's a quote from Boston Rob. See this right now? The little details you're not telling me? Makes me think you can't... No, sorry. It makes me think I can't trust you. That's Rob playing well. You've got to wonder how many people are that adept, that aware, that mindful of how what they say is going to impact the people they're talking to. You can tell by watching Ben in that scene with Rob that Ben doesn't even know he's being pressured. He's being threatened. That Rob is playing this game beautifully in that scene. It's a subtle thing that people who watch aren't all aware of. I know many of you are, and many of you are saying, oh, don't talk to us like we don't know what's going on. I know many of you do know what's going on, but many of you don't understand the subtlety of instantaneously, extemporaneously being able to address whatever happens in that moment. There's no way Rob could have planned for Ben to have been sharing bits of information but kind of withholding some. So Rob had to instantly, automatically calculate, decide, and respond to Ben's doing that. And right there in that scene, as they're walking down the beach, Ben and Rob is brilliant. I love Ethan. And he's just saying, he feels like he's almost going to throw up. The game is so fast and he's not really, has no clue, he says, what's going on. That's a big part of Survivor anytime. But here with all the winners, I bet it is a handful to have any kind of confidence in what's really happening. I love all the talk about, let's get together and vote off Rob. But I just don't think most of these players are skillful enough to focus on what the most necessary early targets need to be. Because for many people, Rob need not be an early target. If you can use Rob, who is skillful in the game, to help you get to a certain place in the game, that's something you ought to consider. So many people think, oh, we need to get off the big threats immediately. That could be a very, very stupid move. As I explained to Kathy and Colby in All Stars, that if they got rid of me, they'd be next. Again, here people think I'm arrogant. They got rid of me. And who went next? Kathy and Colby. Ee-yi-yi. Here we are early in the game, and Natalie is saying, it's not blood, but it's pretty close with Jeremy. Watch, as viewers, how many of these people seem to be showing you the level of trust that they have in other people. One of the things that's crucial in the game, this game of All Winners particularly, is to not let yourself have so much trust in someone that you get blindsided, even in small ways, never mind getting voted out. Trust is something that, as the game has progressed, is as necessary as it was in the first season, but it's harder to develop, and it's not as long-lasting necessarily. You've got to be really, really constantly reevaluating the levels of trust that you have in any particular individual based on every single dynamic that changes. Poor Adam. He's all flustered and bothered that people are confronting him and telling him that people are talking about he and Denise having wandered off and had a conversation. Whether or not they had a conversation of any value or import in the game doesn't matter. Other players, if they're good players, are going to use the fact that you've wandered off and that they noticed it to put the focus on you, to take it away from them, to talk about the possibility that you two could be plotting ahead. If they can keep people thinking about you and Denise rather than themselves, that's great. They stay in the game longer, and you're likely a target coming up in one of these early tribal councils. Don't act frustrated, Adam. That's not a good look, particularly to someone else that you'd like to align with and build trust with. You want to show them that you can handle things, and so you have a little bit of confidence in what they're sharing with you, and you take responsibility for having done something that could have been misconstrued or misused against you. Anyway, a little too late to give Adam advice right now, right? Yes, things like that. That shouldn't be like the end of the world. That's a little insight into a player not being as high level, as aware, self-aware as they should be. You shouldn't be saying to the camera things that aren't smart. Here we are in Tribal Council, and it's fascinating. You know, Adam worked hard from the time that he and Denise were caught talking and people started to use that to get to this place where the focus was shifted to someone else, Natalie, I think. And Rob went along with Adam. That's smart. Keeps the focus off of Rob. Rob knows that getting through the first tribal council is crucial for him because he's an easy, everybody could jump on board, holy crap, get rid of Rob thing. But I don't think that'll happen. Here's Jeff's skill in Tribal Council. He's talking to the players and saying, it seems like you're holding back. It's just me. I want to know what's going on. But on some level, Jeff has to know. They don't want to tell him everything because they don't want to tell the other players that are sitting there everything, particularly things that they're thinking about or planning or have only spoken openly with one or two others. They don't want the whole group at Tribal Council to know these things. And Jeff knows that. But he's good at pushing anyway. And there are players that just aren't that smart and do say all kinds of things they should not say at Tribal Council, which shifts the target to the folks that are easier to get rid of and keeps it off of you. So it's just Survivor, playing out like it always does in ways you can't predict. There goes Natalie. She's the first one off. But even though you can see how frustrated she is, Edge of Extinction may be tough, but it gives her the opportunity to come back in. So you can't let your guard down. You can't go into this silly place of anger. It's a game. And if you were blindsided and didn't know that was happening, you've got to ask yourself why. If you weren't, okay, just buckle up and figure out what the next steps are, because you've got to take some next steps. Who knows what's going to happen at Edge of Extinction or how you're going to get back in it. But if you're a player, you've got to play. Every time you let your emotions undermine your ability to play, you're screwing yourself in this game. Yeah, she's just not happy. And that's too bad. That's when people just can't, I don't know. Like even when I got voted out in All-Stars, I was like, oh, I've been bamboozled, damn it. You know, it's just what it is. Okay, this is some funny editing. You know, Natalie's walking away to head to Edge of Extinction. And what are you being shown? What am I seeing now? Look at the smile on Boston Rob's face. And it looks as if Parvati smiles just as widely and smiles right back at Rob. So what are you thinking? It's still frustrating not knowing what's happening with these fire tokens. But here Natalie had to give it to somebody. She gave it to Jeremy. What's going to come of it? What could Jeremy now do with 2 fire tokens? We don't know. Here again, I've got to emphasize. Here's Natalie on Edge of Extinction. And one of the first things she says is, I thought I would be crying, but I'm just mad. Neither of those is good. I love you, Natalie. I love you, girl. But none of those is a good fuel, I don't think, for effective gameplay in Survivor. As soon as this whole sad emotion of tears and crying or anger is underneath whatever it is you're trying to do, I think it skews it a little. I think it dulls what could be a sharper thought or plot or plan for how to move forward. Survivor's tough, and everybody does it differently. And I'm sure Natalie would say that it's energy she uses to drive her, the emotion or the anger. And maybe so. But personally, I just don't think it's as effective as learning to set aside those kinds of emotions, realizing you're in a game, even thinking about who it is that did so well. Who might you congratulate about being such an effective player that they got rid of you? You're then less stressed and you can think about those details in ways that maybe you can add them to your toolbox. I don't think you can do that well when you're angry or crying. Yul is gathering up folk. Good, smart move. Here he is chatting, trying to look at the folks that appear to be kind of not in alliances. I think that's awesome. And again, I think Yul is somebody to watch. But it's interesting. Here is 2-time winner Sandra, also, obviously showing how angry she is that Rob didn't say anything to her in season 39. Is that gameplay? That's the thing with Sandra. Often you can't tell. In this case, I'm thinking it might not be. I'm thinking she let it get to her a little too much. And the problem with that is just what I said a little bit earlier about anger and stuff. It would be much healthier, much more effective, much better, I think, for Sandra to have recognized that Rob intentionally withheld from Sandra while they were on season 39 the information that he was coming to 40. And if you just laugh, giggle a little bit at the silliness of Rob having done that, and even the awful gameplay of it, because he didn't have to do that, and his having done that now puts a target on his back by Sandra, who could have aligned with him a little bit. But you can tell she's wound up about it. So I don't know. Either she's acting really well and he told her and they both knew it all along and they're in a really tight alliance. That would be brilliant. Or Sandra's just letting too much emotion get to her and she's too focused on how dare he have done that to me. How dare he? Wow, here we get in this next challenge, and these people are falling further and further behind. Rob, in a boat, kind of Old school is what people will say, and behind in the challenge. But I don't know. Let's see what happens. One of the things that you viewers probably understand is how tiring these challenges are. And I'm watching this challenge now, and here they are getting to the barrel roll. And one of the things that happens in these situations is that you start to lose your ability to think as clearly as you might otherwise. I look at that barrel roll and I think, well, why didn't you just push somebody over first and then have them grasp your hands to pull you the next time? And nobody does that for a long time. And it's not that they're all stupid. It's that you're just doing what you can do to breathe, and you're trying to catch that breath enough to think. And then sometimes you're just moving without thinking in order to get that breath. And then finally you have a minute to think and you say, oh, this might work. And then you'll be able to do it that way. And they do that. Ethan, that was smart. He grabs somebody's hands and he pulls them over. Good job, E. Here's Sandra sitting out again, another challenge. You know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The challenges aren't the end all. You need to get through them. You need to do well. It's really important to not be perceived as a hindrance. But in general, you don't have to be a superstar. In fact, that could be a real threat. That could be a real problem if you're perceived as a superstar. And if your team doesn't win all the time, you know, the Deadwood's got to go home at some point. Here we are in season 40. Winners. They're all winners. Who's won twice? Sandra's won the game twice. And up pops an anonymous, supposedly, immunity idol. Sandra gets an immunity idol. What? Her first one ever. She's gleeful. But she's not stupid. Look it, she's already thinking, I wonder if this came from Natalie. It's not as anonymous as people think. Sandra walks up, feeds to Tony the whole bit that Tyson wants him out, and then she takes a step back and just watches Tony wind up frenetically. Everybody else look intently. They start to make a plan. Sandra's not even in it. She just watches from behind. Brilliant. Here we are in the second tribal council, and look at Yule's calmness. Even when Tyson is pointing out that Yule is a thinker, Yule doesn't get upset. Yule doesn't even twitch. Flinch, not a bit. He's just watching what happens. The tribal councils are a place where a lot happens, where a lot of the subtleties about what's going on kind of come out, and sometimes people don't expect them to or don't want them to. And this is an interesting one. For me, as I'm watching it and I'm seeing a lot of focus on Amber, I'm thinking, you know, you can't always think this way, but in this case, I'm thinking, oy, she's getting an awful lot of airplay. Uh-oh. We'll see. Sandra telling Amber, you have to keep up with the pace or you're going to have to move out of the way. That's just the way it is. Oy, this is not good. Okay, bye, Amber. Second tribal council's over. Amber's gone. Listen, there's a lot of honesty that happens in tribal councils too. People talk a little bit about things that they actually experience and they know everybody knows, and that's really helpful. That shows you what people are observant. Kind of paying attention to that and recognizing that they're willing to admit that they're observing this or that is good data for you to have in your pocket. Here we are, season 40, the premiere episode. Two folks are gone. Amber's out, Natalie's out. Where do we go from here? What I hope to provide is a little bit of insight into some of the stuff that over time will become more and more subtle, more connected to things that have happened in earlier seasons, and give some of the viewers that are more casual an opportunity to understand some of the real, deep, stressful stuff that it takes to win. It's a complicated game, and in this season particularly, with all players who have previously won, I hope there are going to be some really extraordinary dynamics to talk about.